What is going on, you guys? Hello, and Madam Roast Beef here, your beefalicious girl, your brain cancer warrior. This is my radiation mask from when I received radiation therapy, guys. I have never uploaded any of my radiation treatment footage just because it really scarred me really bad. I actually wanted to be on this Jubilee prompt. I was interviewed for it, but the discussion that we had, they kind of made me feel like I wouldn't be a good fit for it. After watching the video, that did not make sense. I would have been a perfect fit for it. So I'm a little disheartened. I'll put the broken heart emoji on the screen. Makes me really sad that I wasn't picked for this episode, especially because I've been told by Jubilee that one, because I live in Vegas, transportation's been an issue, and that's the only reason that they haven't picked me. I was told that was the only reason you haven't been picked is because you live in Vegas. But then when I was interviewed for this prompt, they told me that they had a budget, so they would be able to fly me from Vegas to LA. So I don't know why I wasn't picked for this. I'm really hurt that I wasn't picked for this because watching the discussion, it would have helped me a lot. I'm gonna have my entire brain cancer playlist linked down below because, guys, I have been filming my journey with brain cancer since the point of diagnosis. I've never even uploaded all my radiation footage, or my chemotherapy footage. Chemotherapy almost killed me, and radiation has made me the disabled person, that I am. So, like I said, a little hurt that I wasn't picked for this episode, but even just watching it, I think was pretty powerful. So here's my reaction to watching it. I really wish I could have met these people that were on the episode. They seem so cool, and we had all been through the similar experiences. So Jubilee, I'm really a little bummed that I was like made to think that I wouldn't be a good fit for this. Although I would have. There's literally the reason they didn't pick me is because they made me think that because I wasn't receiving treatment and because I wasn't cured that I wouldn't be a good fit. But there's literally another woman on there in the exact same position that I am. So guys, I don't know why I wasn't picked. Really breaks my heart and hurts me because this whole episode was just so powerful. I love you. Enjoy. I'm not mad at Jubilee. Just a little hurt because this prompt would I think would help me a lot, and especially because I literally have a recording of me asking them to do a prompt with people with cancer because I was being interviewed for something else, and I said, please do something with cancer. I have brain cancer. I would love to be a part of that. I've been living with it and fighting my life since I was 18 years old. I have to get MRIs every 6 months for the remainder of my life just to make sure that there's no cancer growth because I'm not cured. But all my treatments, basically there's nothing else that they can do because my brain I could cause. I had a hard time speaking here, guys. It happens often because of the treatment I received. It's really kind of embarrassing. I usually edit it out, but I wanted to leave it in because it fits, the topic. Basically, all the treatment that I received, I can't receive anymore because of where my tumor was. It was in my frontal lobe. Most of my tumor is gone, and all the bits of it hopefully that are still left are hopefully dead, but there's no way of knowing, so that's why I have to get MRIs every 6 months. And any other treatment, more radiation, more chemo, it could really mess me up in my brain's ability to function because it was my frontal lobe, really sensitive part of my brain. I had a neuropsychologist look at me, and I was a little offended. She was a little offensive. She said this, all of this, it's because of your tumor. So, and she basically told me that because of how crazy my crazy, you know, wild personality is basically probably because of me and my brain tumor. And you know what? Would have loved to have said it on the video. As sad as that is to hear, I love myself as a person, and I would not change a single thing. So Jubilee, like I said again, really bummed that I was kind of excluded from this prompt, especially because I asked the interviewer to do this prompt, and then a couple weeks later, the prompt was interviews are being cast for the prompt. I was even interviewed for the prompt, and for whatever reason, they decided against your beefy girl. Part of me, guys, part of me thinks it's because they didn't want to put Madam Roast Beef on a screen, and I'm like, you don't have to put MadamRoastBeef on a screen. You could have just told me that. Like, what the fuck? Because in the submission file, in the submission tape, I'll have my interview on the screen, or my submission tape. I will have my motherfucker, goofy fuck. I will have my submission tape on the screen. It's really funny. Babes, I know this is like a really slow start to the beginning of the video, but I want to get my experience with all this out, and I want to talk about everything really quick before I start my reaction to the cancer episode because it's really important. I could not find my cancer submission video. I have no idea where that is. I'll find it maybe one day, and maybe if enough people want to see it, I could put it in something. But I'm trying to get this reaction up. So I'm gonna put the video that I submitted to Jubilee actually for another prompt after this because, guys, I keep applying, and I was even told we would pick you if you lived in LA, but you don't. So, and I'm like, girl, I will get to LA no matter what. Please just pick me regardless. But they didn't. Regardless, here's the last submission that I did for a Jubilee topic. I'm pretty sure it was gay men versus straight men, but it wasn't gay men versus straight men. It was one gay man like making assumptions about straight men based on their appearance or something. I don't know. It's a really weird video. It films June 8th. It's not even June 1st. But I know they didn't pick me. They basically told me we did not pick you. And they broke my heart every time they do this. So again, here's the video I was talking about. It's important. It's actually from a vlog, and if you want to check the vlog out, I'll have it linked down below. It's a very fun video. The whole video is just me walking around town and being a menace. Vlog it. Hopefully people will watch, because yikes, nobody's watching anything now. And like I said, I'm not trying to be crybaby, but I am in the winter of my life, and I want to die. Most days. It's gonna get better. I'm gonna repair myself. I applied for a Jubilee episode, I'm not kidding you, 7 times. And I applied for this last one, and I felt very, very confident with it. Here, I'll put my application video here. Hi, so I've applied to be on Jubilee, I'm not kidding you. Let me be honest with you, if you're watching this, I have applied, I think, like 10 times. It's a little embarrassing because I've been interviewed and everything, but then something falls through, I don't get picked, and I'm not decided to be the person. And I'm not gonna be the girl that's gonna sit here and be annoying and say, it really is bothering me. It's not. I'm begging you, Jubilee, I will be on a video one day, whether it's involving me having brain cancer, whether it's involving me being a gay homo. I'm excited. It's gonna happen one day. I'm hyped. I love the channel. I watch all the videos. And the reason, let me just be blunt, honest, raw, realistic, truthful, and utterly real. The reason I wanna be on a Jubilee episode, I would love to share my opinion in the setting where you guys sit down and have people's minds and discussions happen. I think it's so cool. I think it's so interesting. I know you're thinking, yeah, you'll say anything to get on. I genuinely think it's so cool, and I have such blunt opinions. I really wanted to be on the circumcision episode because I'm uncircumcised, and I think circumcision is the devil's work. I wanted to be on the issue about previous religion because I grew up in a religious situation. And there's 4,200 religions in this world, and religion is crazy, and I don't know how anyone could actually believe that only one religion is real. Just be a nice person, respect people. I wanted to be on the cancer episode, but then I think I kind of realized this is for people that have been either cured for cancer or are getting treatment. I'm not getting treatment. I already had my treatment, and I'm just living with having brain cancer, you know, until RIP, until I can't anymore, you know. But life is short. We all are destined to die. Born to die. Lana Del Rey, quote the queen, you know. I don't want to be a goof because I know that I'm being a little bit of a mess, but I'm a big old homo, and I would love to be on this Jubilee episode, and I would love to be on any Jubilee episode. I'm seeing Lana Del Rey for the first time in my entire life live in June. Do you guys want to make my dreams come true and have me finally be on a Jubilee episode? Have MadamRoastBeef, your MRB mistress, on a Jubilee episode? I think it would be cool. I know I'm a cringe lord, I know I'm a weirdo, but I'm desperate, and I'm begging you, please. I submitted that for my application video for the Jubilee video, and like I said, it's gay men versus straight men, and I'm like, girl, as someone that grew up in a small town as an FAG fag, let me be a part of that conversation. But also, they wouldn't even let me be a part of the cancer conversation because the prompt they picked, although somebody reached out and said, hey, we have a cancer episode, they didn't realize, like, I'm not cured of cancer. I'm living with it. And I'm also not receiving treatment because I've received most of my treatment. So I wasn't able to be like, I wasn't like applicable for the prompt or topic or whatever. But yeah, I applied for that, so hopefully that'll happen. That's what I'm praying, because I'm like, if MadamRoastBeef is on a Jubilee video, gay man versus straight man, that could be so good. I'm throwing it out into the universe. It's gonna happen. I'm throwing it out into the universe. Filming day is June 8th. It's going to happen. I'm gonna be so happy when it does, and when the video comes out, I really hope it'll start being it won't be a downhill nightmare, it'll be an uphill battle. But I'm ready to battle. I'm ready for war, bitch. I will never not be ready for war. I'm a brain cancer warrior, bitch. I'm ready for war every day of my life.
And guys, intrusive thought just popped in my mind as soon as the word brain cancer warrior came out of my mind. I heard somebody say, God, he always talks about having cancer. What the fuck? He wants pity. I don't want pity, but it's destroyed my life. My mind has been melted with radiation. My life's been altered, and it is in every hour of my day. I'm not able to turn off and be a normal person. I'm a disabled person. I talk about having cancer a lot. You know why? Because it ruined my life. Because it destroyed my existence. I don't want pity. I want people to understand why I'm a mess and still enjoy the content I make. I'm not saying it to get sympathy. At the same time, I think people do think this fag just wants us to cry for him. Don't cry for me, please. But at the same time, let's open our hearts and vibe. You know, life is so short. It's important to care about people. It's important to care about the world. And it's so fucking important to take care of those that you love and the planet around you. I'm going on a rant, a political rampage rant. I'm not going to. But guys, it is important. Can I smell this? Oh, you smell, girly. Oh my God. Felt really good, actually. Was that awkward? That was probably a little awkward. I'm sorry. If that was a little awkward, I didn't mean to make you uncomfy. But I did want you to know that I love you. Even with my chapped lips. And I don't have a unibrow, thank God. My eyebrow razor, I can't afford to get other ones because I'm so broke. But my eyebrow razor, it's like broken. The blade literally is falling out. So like I get so scared I'm gonna slice my eyebrows off every time that I fucking goddamn use it. But I have to use it because I'm a hairy bitch. My unibrow comes in and I look like Sasquatch. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so pretty, but what the fuck is that? And guys, I'm so pretty. When I say that, don't say he's a narcissist. I thought I was the ugliest freckle-faced fuck as a little boy. I'm glad that I grew up to somebody that I don't think is disgusting. Sure, I may not be the prettiest girl in town, but I don't need to be. I love myself and I'm happy. I will say I'm pretty. And you should be able to say that too. Take care of yourself. You have one fucking body in this whole life. Why would you disrespect it? You know, love yourself. Life is short. I love myself. I can hear somebody saying, yeah, too much, you faggot. Sure, maybe I do love myself too much, but I'm sorry that after attempting suicide 4+ times, that I finally realized this life is so limited. Love yourself. Treat yourself with respect. I do love myself. Yes, I used to post booty pics. I'll even have some of them on the screen. Yes, I used to post booty pics on Instagram until my account with like over 20,000 followers got banned and I lost over 800 photos. Instagram is actually supposed to let you download those photos afterwards, but they did not let me download any of my photos. So I lost photos of my cats, videos of my cats, videos of my dog, video of friends, lost all of that. Instagram, you're a fucking cunt, fuck you. I'll say it again. They're supposed to let you, but they like refuse to let me, and I just think that is so creepy. Guys, this is a rant. I've been ranting for 26 minutes. Girl, I need help. I'm depressed. I'm depressed, guys. Oh my God, McFucking-Donalds. McFondle my pussy. McFondle my pussy, wouldn't you? I do like to fondle, not fondle pussy. I like to eat at McDonald's. I'm just kidding, I don't like to eat at McDonald's. I'm much more of a Wendy's girl or a Burger King cunt. I do have a Burger King cunt, honestly. If I'm being honest. Oh my God, this car is trying to kill me. Girl, I'm just a pedestrian, a civilian.
And guys, that was what I submitted for the last Jubilee episode. I honestly think I'm gonna give up on submitting and wasting time doing this because guys, I'm wasting time. I've applied 7 or 8 times. I have such a beautiful personality. I gave them this prompt idea and asked them to do it. They interviewed me and then told me they did not want to. They made me feel like I wouldn't be a good fit. Girl, there was someone in the exact same position. How the fuck? Why would you let me think I wouldn't be a good fit when there's literally someone that is not receiving treatment but still has cancer? And they considered her a cancer patient. Why wouldn't you? They made me feel like they wouldn't consider me a cancer patient because I'm not a patient in a hospital. Regardless, Jubilee, maybe one day. I will have faith. I love the channel. Just really broke my heart. Because especially watching this video. Guys, you're going to see my reaction. I know that I've talked a lot. You're going to see my reaction. The video, it meant a lot to me. I really love this video. And I wish I could have met these people and had conversations with them. It's a bummer. But I love you. Enjoy the rest of the reaction. And guys, in that submission video, when I submitted it alongside that file, I put my name as Jeffrey, and then last name I put as Madam Roast Beef, but they would not have had to have put Jeffrey Madam Roast Beef. It would have been so simple, Jubilee, had you just said, we don't want to put Madam Roast Beef, might take away the seriousness of the video. Girl, don't put Madam Roast Beef. Don't. I would have brought it up during the middle ground episode just like the other girl did when she brought up her channel name. I put that on there just so you know, so you could look and see that I actually have cancer, and that's where my entire cancer journey was. That was the only reason I put Madam Roast Beef as my last name, Jubilee. But like I said, who knows? Who knows why they didn't pick me? Maybe they thought I was too much of a loudmouth. I don't know. Would have loved to have been on this episode. Would have loved to have talked about this prompt. Just like the Cheaters episode. I was interviewed for the Cheaters episode. Guys, my first boyfriend got someone pregnant. We were dating since I was 13 years old. Got someone pregnant. It was cheating on me throughout our entire relationship. Would have been perfect for that prompt as well. But again, they excluded me from that prompt as well. Part of me does think I one day probably will just stop applying because it is really sad. And it hurts my feelings so much. Because I get interviewed every single time I apply and then they say no. So it's like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? It just makes me feel kind of bad. But I love you, Jubilee. One day I will stay hopeful. And guys, I hope you enjoyed this reaction. It is a powerful one. And as someone that is, still living with cancer and has gone through so much, look at that brain cancer playlist. Guys, so much horrific shit. That's like, and the worst part is that playlist doesn't even have my radiation footage. It doesn't even have my chemotherapy footage. Thankfully, I still have those footages, but so much more is coming. I'm going to talk about it, so please make sure that you subscribe to your bitch and know that I love you. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy this episode. Some bad things to happen with my mental health and my ability to function, and radiation has already messed me up so much I have a hard time even just speaking and functioning. I know you don't think that because I film videos and stuff, but guys, life is very hard. Very soon I'm going to restart recapping and going over what it was like being diagnosed with brain cancer at 18 years old, 9 days after moving halfway across the country. And although, like I said, I'm still really hurt that I was kind of like excluded from this prompt, even though I asked Jubilee to do a prompt involving cancer like a few weeks before they decided to start casting for this. And I was even interviewed for this episode. I even filmed my interview. Um, and I have that, and I don't know, really bummed, really bummed. But here's my reaction to it. Jubilee, I love you. Maybe one day you'll pick me. Please, one day pick me. Please, I'm begging you. And guys, like I said, watching this video, I think it helped me quite a bit. So just know I love you, and I will see you at the end of the video. Love you guys, or I'll see you throughout the video because we're gonna react to it. I love you. What is going on, you guys? Hello, Madam Roast Beef here, and how are you feeling, guys? This video, I don't even know how to begin this video. I am going to be reacting to Jubilee's I ignored the early signs of cancer / middle ground thing. And the part that makes me really sad is I had a conversation with Jubilee because I was being interviewed for another prompt or topic or whatever. And I asked them, I said, please do something with cancer. I have brain cancer. I'd love to be on the episode. And the girl said, that would be a really good idea, actually. And then, I'm not kidding you, the next cycle for videos that they had come out was the cancer video. I even was interviewed for this video. And they basically made me think that like I wouldn't be a good fit because I still am living with cancer. I have been cured and I wasn't just recently diagnosed. But like, God, looking at the title and looking at like the first here, let me show you. Looking at the first thing here, I didn't want to get chemotherapy. I don't want to be dramatic. Guys, it says I clicked on this video 2 minutes ago because I clicked on the video the second that it was uploaded because I'm really passionate about this. But let me refresh the page because it has not been 2 minutes. It has been
I just told like one person to
it's
work
been
on
a
like,
day.
I'm pretty sure
And
I
now
have
the video has
testicular cancer.
105,000 views. And I have shared my cancer journey since the point of diagnosis. Guys, I'll have my entire cancer playlist here on the screen. I was diagnosed at 18 years old, 9 days after moving to a city where I knew nobody. And my life has been an earthquaking, roller coaster shaking ride ever since then. You left the fan on, you stupid goofy. God, I'm a hooker that smiles often. And I don't want to sound like super sad or depressed, but guys, I've been interviewed by Jubilee like 4 or 5 times to be on prompts, and they always make me think I'm gonna get picked, and then they say, nope, you live in Vegas, we don't want to pay for travel, so I'm not gonna complain. I just want to say I inspired this episode because I absolutely did, because I was being interviewed, and I asked them to do this topic, and although they didn't pick me or really make me feel like I was gonna be a good fit for the video, I want to see would I have been a good fit, because realistically, looking at the title and everything, I think I would have been, and I'm a little very sad, especially because they said they had a travel budget and they could afford to fly me from Vegas to LA, which they wouldn't even have needed to have done. I could have paid to come, but oh well. I'm not gonna rant. Let's watch this video. I have brain cancer, diagnosed at 18. Playlist here. Check it out. It's linked down below, and let's see what other people with cancer have to say.
I just told like one person at work, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I have testicular cancer. And like, really? All right, see you later.
Nice.
It was like a friend.
Wow.
I shouldn't make it seem like it was like a manager or nothing like that.
We need to roast that person right now. What's their name?
Yeah. Here's his address now.
How old were you?
22 when I found it. And
I was 18. I really would have liked to have been a part of this video. I'm really sad that they didn't in any way
Hey,
make
I'm
me
John.
feel like I could be
host the Radical
chose.
Empathy podcast, and I'll be moderating today's discussion between cancer patients and cancer survivors. Our first prompt is, I did not want to get chemotherapy. Can the agreeer step forward?
Oh my god, chemo almost killed me. It dropped my blood platelets so low, they said if I had gingivitis, I would have bled to death. Jesus Christ. Who would want that?
Yeah, the first time I was diagnosed, I did not want to do chemotherapy. I had seen my brother go through it, and it was a terrible thing, but it was in 1993 when he went through treatment. I was diagnosed in 2011, and it
That's
had
crazy.
fortunately evolved from that time, but I didn't know it, right? So when I got my diagnosis, all I could think about was what I watched him go through, and it was a nightmare.
Horrible.
And yet, at the same time, I was like, I have 4 kids. I still had 2 at home. I was a single parent at the time. And I didn't know any better. So I thought, I got to do this. Like, I have to do everything I can to not die right now, right? I got to take care of these kids. And I just can remember sitting in that chair the first time, because some people get it in a port, and I had it in my arm. And they're putting my arm, and like every cell in my body wanted to get up and run out of that room. I did not want to go through it. And then, fortunately for me, it was not nearly the same experience I'd seen my brother go through because of advancements that have happened since that time. And then when I was, and I went through so much between that diagnosis and then the 2020 diagnosis. And when I got diagnosed in 2020, I had already made a decision because the chemotherapy had damaged my body so much and had taken me so many years to go through the recovery process after that.
Yeah.
That I, at that time, was not open to any IV chemotherapy at all. But again, fortunately, there are a lot of advancements in oral chemotherapies and lots of things they
that's what I
can do
was
for
on.
stage 4 cancer other than IV chemotherapy. And so
I
I
took pill
didn't have
chemo.
to make that choice. But yeah, that, the stories you hear and the things you see and your own trauma experiences with that are hard to get over,
Yeah.
And
What's
heal
an
from.
intense thing,
Yes.
I imagine, to do with your body.
Yeah, it's very intense. Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely say I was open to doing chemotherapy. I think I'm just looking at this from the perspective of I didn't want to do chemotherapy. Like nobody would want to do chemotherapy.
want to, right?
And obviously, if there was something else I could have possibly did, just knowing how like harsh chemotherapy is on the body, and I just hate having to like put like bad stuff into my body, just in general, whether that even just like eating, like I like eating healthy, like I like doing all that. So like knowing
Even
that chemotherapy,
McDonald's.
even though it would be helping
Right.
treating me, like I know it's going to be also damaging my body at the same time. So I think that was just hard. But I also kind of had no choice to even choose to do chemotherapy or not, because my like my cancer was so aggressive. Like you had to start it. I started it like a day after finding out I had it. So it was kind of just like, I knew I didn't have the choice, but I was still open to it. Just obviously, I think I more so just hope that there can be I think they're starting to find like new developments on like treatments for leukemias. The other day I forgot what it was, but they just posted that they started like a new one that works for like acute lymphoblastic leukemia. So yeah, treatment for acute lymphoblastic leukemia is just not fun. So I think I just knew that going in, and I was like, it's gonna be a rough one.
Can our disagreeers come in?
How could you disagree with not wanting treatment that could save your life?
I would say although chemotherapy is devastating, I would say just by any means necessary. Obviously, there's a lot of things that come along with it. Lose your hair. You can be sterile. You can
I
lose your
thankfully didn't
ability to have
lose my
kids.
hair.
But you're just kind
I thankfully did not lose my hair from chemo. I lost my hair from radiation. Guys, that's why I'm a freak and I always grow my hair out way too fucking long because I was like bald on the top of my head. I look like grandma roast beef. It was really scary. So I always have long hair because of that. And it is like a thing that I'm self-conscious about, but because it doesn't look good all the time. But you know, that's life. Cancer is not it's not an easy thing to deal with. I really wish they would have had me on this episode. I'm actually really, really bummed that I was excluded from this for whatever reason, especially after being told that they had a travel budget. Why?
of picking one or the other. I mean, it is
Why?
devastating and it's horrible to go through, but it's better than the alternative, I would say. And
Yeah,
it's
better than death.
fairly successful, I would say. There's obviously a lot of circumstances it doesn't help, it doesn't work, but for the most part, it does have a pretty high success rate when it comes down to it. You just have to go through the adversity of it.
Yeah.
I had no choice. Like there was no option. My cancer was so aggressive and so fast that if I didn't do chemotherapy, I would have been gone in a few weeks, a few months after my diagnosis. I was getting very, very sick, and chemotherapy, like you were saying, gets sterile. I am infertile, because of chemotherapy and radiation. I've had the most
radiation.
toxic chemotherapy treatments out there because I had a bone marrow transplant. And of course, nobody wants to do chemo, but I wanted to survive. I wanted to live longer for my family, be there for my friends, be there for my loved ones. And my only choice, like pretty much all of you guys here, was to do this horrible, poisonous, toxic treatment called chemotherapy.
And do you see it? I mean, hearing the word toxic, poison, it's an aggressive thing to put in your body, but do you see it as medicine still?
It's medicine. It's why I'm here. I mean, it's not
Saves
great medicine.
lives.
I wish there were better alternatives, but it was the only option I had at the time, and hopefully they have better advancements in the future. But yes, it's definitely toxic.
I did a lot of inner work to totally transform my beliefs around medicine. Because like I said before, I was really natural and very judgmental of Western medicine. And when I heard, I kind of thought my treatment plan would be like, oh, a few months of a little bit of this, that, you're cancer-free quickly, that first time. And then I heard, 6 months of aggressive chemo and then surgery and then radiation and then 5 to 10 years of hormone therapy. I was like, what are you doing? But the whole, a big, huge support for me has been just investigating those belief systems. So chemo is poisonous to my body was a belief that I think a lot of people share, agree with. It's out there,
Right.
but I challenged that belief, and I found quite the opposite, that
I was so
chemo is
nervous.
healing to my body and saving my body and protecting my body. And so I renamed it Sea Love because I'm cheesy and rename everything in a cheesy way. But I looked at it, I went into that infusion room with so much gratitude of fill me up, here's my superhero plug, plug me in. And I envisioned, I did these meditations of, seeing my the chemo go, welcoming it with love and gratitude, seeing it, make cancer disappear, and then my healthy cells protected. And then I looked to natural therapies and ways to kind of deal with side effects. And not to say it was a rainbow the whole time. I've been on 5 different
Absolutely
chemo
was
regimens
not.
now, but I had a pretty good experience in chemo. And yeah, I'm so grateful for it. And I might be on it again someday, and that's, I vote for hopefully that not happening, but also if it does, it's all right, thank you. Thank you for healing me.
Has everyone here received chemo?
Yes.
Yeah. What's going through your mind,
I'm so angry for being
that treatment,
excluded
or,
from this
is that when it
conversation.
becomes real? Or
Chemo almost killed me.
I'm
I would
to
have had
throw
so
up. I
much
feel
to
like shit.
say.
That's what's going through my mind.
Yeah.
Right? When people ask
Yeah.
what it feels like, I'm just like, oh, just like a really bad hangover.
Yeah, it's horrible. Horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. It became real when you wake up one day and all of your hair is just in a pile.
Yeah.
You pull up the body, what is?
Yes.
Why is all my leg hair gone?
Yes.
Why are my eyebrows missing?
That was it.
You pull out the hair, it's man.
Yeah,
You
it's
just
not
shave
just
it.
hair.
That's when it became real. Because I try to shave my head earlier because I thought cancer took your hair, not chemo. I'm like, let me shave my head earlier so I could have control. Because that was the one thing that I wanted at the time. And then I shaved my head too early, And I was trying to avoid the whole losing the hair process. And then like 2 weeks later, with my hair growing back, and I pulled it. I'm like, oh,
Balls right out.
I thought I was gonna beat it. I made it for so long without losing a strand of hair. And then my buddy's wedding was like the weekend, like in 2 days. Not that it's my wedding, I don't care, but still, I'm gonna be in pictures, right? I had a beanie on when I fell asleep, and I went like this. And it was like this, the cul-de-sac stayed, and then there was a little section up here, and it would kind of just go like, big chunks were falling out. I was like, I could just kind of like brush it. It'll be cool, right?
It was mostly radiation that had my hair falling out.
I was so identified with my hair at the time. Like I thought that was like my beauty marks, like down to my butt and curly and mermaidy and stuff. And so I was like, and also really loved my natural breasts as well. So I was like, those are the two things you're gonna take, cancer? Dang it. And I thought I got ahead of the trauma of losing your hair by throwing a hair party, and I had it cut into like a little pixie and donated my hair. That gave like a sense of meaning to it too. But I totally lost it completely when it finally started coming out, and I was like running, trying to get scissors to cut it more, and there's like clumps. I just remember these clumps of hair in the shower that looked like little hamsters, like just, and I'm like, get it out now. I did not handle that gracefully.
Yeah, no,
anyway.
Sure it was challenging.
It's weird hearing the stories because it's like I was so young. It was kind of just my life then. Like I didn't really, if someone asks how was it, I'm like, I have no idea how it was really. My second time I had cancer, I didn't do chemo, so it's like weird hearing these stories because I don't really have them, even though I did go through it, you know?
Yeah, that is a surreal position for you to be in.
Got a gray head of hair too, so.
Yeah, I know. Like,
I think at this point in my life, like the whole chemo thing, I would definitely want to like think into it a little bit, you know, and see my options. Although it did save my life, so I'm not against it by any means. But I'm also like, I'm the type of person where if like I'm hurting, someone's like, take an Advil. I'm like, no, I don't want any pills. I don't want anything. So I was really bummed when I lost my thyroid that now I have to take a pill every single day, you know? So I'm like,
right.
But it is what it is. It's just life, you know? This is what you do when you have cancer.
Yeah.
You
All
gotta
right,
just
let's
push through
reset for the next one. Have you ever?
Yeah, with chemo almost killing me, guys, my blood platelets, I was told, are normally supposed to be at like 50,000. They said when they tested my blood and they tested my blood platelets, my platelets were around 1,000. 40 to 50 to 1. That's crazy. And basically the doctor told me that if I brushed my teeth and my gums bled from gingivitis, that I would have bled to death. Because your blood platelets like stop your blood from like bleeding like nonstop. It helps your blood clot and stop the bleeding. So for me, chemo, it's not that I wouldn't do it. I did not want to do it because I was really scared. Of course, I was only doing it through a pill. I was taking the tablets by mouth, but still very, very scary.
Wondered what
Very
it's like
scary.
to be. I'm afraid of death. Will our agreeers please step forward?
I used to be. I'm not anymore. In fact, a lot of days I want it to happen. Not to be sad.
I am afraid of death, honestly, and
But
it's not really
it's true.
for myself that I'm afraid of dying myself. I'm afraid of dying for my family members and my friends because I lost my father to cancer, and I know the pain that it brings to me, to my mom. So losing someone to cancer, I can't imagine if I pass away from cancer or anything, that how my family and my friends would react, because I know how much it has impacted my life. So it's something that I am afraid of.
Yeah, to go along with that, I mean, I'm a dad, I have 2 kids. And, you know, prior to this, I probably would say I'm not necessarily afraid. In the middle of a diagnosis, when you're going through it, it does feel like something you ponder on a day-to-day basis, but it wasn't something I was necessarily like thinking about regularly. I thought I was gonna get to the other side of it. But now that, you know, I have a wife, 2 kids, it's basically my passion to be a dad, and I want to be there for them. It brings me joy every single day, so I need to be there.
That's beautiful.
I love that.
Yeah, it's not something, you know, am I completely at peace with the fear of death? No. Do I live in constant fear of death? No. But being confronted with your mortality at a young age, you know, my cancer journey started in my 30s. as crazy as that was, you know, at that phase, people are growing families and growing careers, and I was growing tumors, and it was hard to relate to that, to my peers at that time. And at the same time, there's such beauty in being confronted with this reality that we're all going to go through at some point. Like every body will leave this earth in
We're all
some
destined
form.
to die.
But
Born to die.
the prospect, especially
Lana
now
Del
that
Rey.
cancer is considered
Right?
incurable, the prospect that could happen sometime soon, I very much want to live and be here as long as possible. And
Literally,
I love my life, and
the girl just said her cancer is incurable. Jubilee, why when I told you that I had incurable cancer, you told me that I probably wouldn't be a good fit? Just because she's not getting treatment, she's just living with it and monitoring it just like I am. Would have been a perfect fit. Guys, I'm not trying to complain or bash Jubilee. I want to be on so bad. I have applied 4 or 5. I've been interviewed 4 or 5 times. This is so heartbreaking to watch. Having diagnosed her, having shown my entire cancer diagnosis and journey since diagnosis, this is really sad to watch.
there's
It makes
so
me
much
feel really
sweetness,
horrible.
you know, with that. Like, we want to be here.
Yeah.
That's so wonderful. But yeah, like the act of dying isn't as much of a fear as how it will impact the people that I love.
Around you.
I've felt that for the most part, and I mean, you guys are in the thick of it now. For me, when I did have the diagnoses, and this might be weird to say, but I've always felt it was harder for the people around me than me myself.
So true.
I mean, I made it through really fast. Comparatively, I had a pretty weak cancer. I still had to do chemo and everything, but you know, when you see your mom and everybody around you and your dad and your wife and the hard time they have to do with it to like take care of you, I would say that's how I felt. I wouldn't say a burden, but you can feel it kind of go towards everybody else surrounding you, at least for me, more than myself.
Yeah, impact them a lot
Thinking
more.
about, you know, just admitting the fear of death with the experiences that you all have had. Was it something you ever talked about directly with your loved ones?
Yeah, I mean, there was a time when I was in the hospital for 5 straight months, and we were talking to palliative care because I was so sick. You know, I didn't think I was even going to survive. And it was something that, like, when I survived, it was like, wow, like, I just put my family, like, through hell and back, and everyone around me, because they were so worried about me, that now I'm like, I can't die now because, you know, I put them through so much. And there was a time, and it's always in the back of your mind as a cancer survivor and a cancer patient. You're always like, what if I relapse? And then, boom, I'm gone. It's always something that does scare you.
Can the disagreeers step forward?
This would have been so cool to be on. I'm so hurt. That sucks,
I'm not
man.
afraid of death, and that by no means means that I want to die, right? It's like I want to live. I have every intention of living, but I feel very rooted in my spiritual beliefs. And I heard what you're saying, Bethany, and I look at my life as a journey of my soul, and this
I
life
agree with
is
that
in
100%.
that journey. And like you also, I think that being very open about death is so important. Like, I talk to my kids about it, and I say, don't use my death as a reason to mess up your life, you know? Like, don't go do things harming yourself because you're sad. I think I love the idea of celebrating someone's life and whatever amount of time we have with them. And I also like to talk openly about death because for me, knowing that death is staring you in the face means I want to do more now, right? So when people say, you want to go to Iceland? I say yes. You know, when they say, you want to come, I go everywhere. I do everything, right? Because I'm like, who knows if I'll have another opportunity. And I think
love her.
that
I would have loved to have met her. Oh
process
my
of
God.
dying that I had to do more work on.
Right.
That I lost my brother to cancer, and I watched him die from cancer. And finally, I realized I have power over that too. I get to make a decision on how I want to die. And so I think that brings me more peace because I know how I don't want to die. I know what I don't want my children to watch me go through. And I know I have power over that, and I fully intend to exercise that power over that if the time comes from cancer, which in my belief it won't, you know, it'll be old age, you know? Yeah.
It's beautiful. I love her.
Yeah, I think me fearing death is dependent on how I'm doing at the very time. If you asked me 4 weeks ago when I was in the hospital with 5 million different infections, I probably would have had a different answer. But right now, since I am feeling fine, I think I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna continue feeling fine. And then as soon as something happens again and I'm in the hospital, that's when the fears kind of start coming back.
Right.
So yeah, it's really occasional depending on how I'm feeling at the moment with me fearing death.
Do you mind describing like what do those fears sound like, feel like?
Yeah, it's more just like, so last month when I was in the hospital, I had an infection in my gut, I had an infection in my blood, in my lungs, and on my skin. So, and they were all really bad, and I was just having the worst symptoms in the hospital. And I was just calling my family, and I was like, look, I think you guys should actually come down, because I go to school in the States, but I'm from Canada. So I was like, you guys should come down. Like, I think it's really bad this time, because I was worried that that would be an infection that would take me out. But I wasn't,
scary.
I don't think I was necessarily scared of death, as you guys were saying, because I knew I would possibly be going. I think I was more worried about my family being like
Hurt.
losing me. So that's why I really wanted them to come down after.
And also, just to mention, she said she had a lot of infections and stuff. When I was in the hospital, I actually had a brain infection and a brain abscess spawn in my brain. It's why I was in the hospital for like over 100 days in the neuro ICU, brain surgery after brain surgery after brain surgery. And the way that the brain abscess was described to me, it was a balloon of pus sitting over a drain, and the drain is your ventricle. That's why I have my VP brain shunt. I'll put that on the screen, whatever the hell that is. It's so scary. I literally pee brain fluid, guys. It's crazy. But it was described as a balloon of pus that's sitting over your ventricle, which is basically a drain. And the balloon could pop at any moment. And if it did, I would either get really sick or I would die. So, totally agree. I was just sitting in the hospital horrified every single day. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I was going to make it. And definitely can relate to what she just said, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I've been very accepting of
Very
death at this
scary.
point. You know, I've had stage 2 when I was 15 and stage 4 when I was 17. And you know, there's like that question that we always ask ourselves, that would you rather know how or when you're going to die? But when you have the answer to both of those questions, it's like, well, I'm going to be dying at 17 years old to cancer. Like, I'm going to be dying at 17 in September. Like, that's it. And it's just, I've kind of accepted it at this point. So it's not that I fear it, but it's more of just like, if it happens, it happens. It's not that I'm afraid of it, but if my time is over, then I guess that's kind of it.
It's coming, right?
I kind of have the same aspect as you on that. You know, I'm not a stressful person, and I had stage 4 when I was 4 years old, and then I had thyroid cancer again in 2019. But same thing, like it kind of just happened, and I was like, they're like, yeah, there's cancer in one side, we're gonna have to remove the other side, and I was kind of just, well, life is what it is, you know. If it happens, if this is my time, this is my time. But I never really thought how you guys were saying about like thinking about your friends and family, how like they're thinking about the whole thing. Because I'm not afraid of dying in any way, but thinking about that now, it's a different story. Thinking about all the people, you know, come together for you, and it sucks that the only time your whole family gets together is when a funeral or a wedding. And
right.
That's
so
kind of like
true.
the sad truth of life a lot of the times.
Do you
That's
remember
so true.
any discussions people had with you about, because you were 4, you said?
4 the first time, yes.
Yeah. I don't. Do you even remember that?
It's kind of like my first memories were just, because I was in the hospital for like 2 years straight. They pretty much told my parents, like, he's done. You know, they gave me 5% chance of surviving. So they told him just
Thank
go to
God you're here.
Disneyland and, you know, kind of have fun, and they didn't stop. So I don't really remember conversations. I didn't really understand what death was at that point. That was just my life, you know?
Yeah.
My favorite things were like a cookie man would come, and like I'd get to pick out my cookie, or every week
cookie
there was like
man.
a toy room, like, and, you know, and that's all. You're 4 years old. You just care about toys and
Right.
whatever, stuff like that, you know?
4-year-old.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
That's cute.
Sheldon.
I'm the same way. So I was diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 27 with no family history. So to kind of face my mortality at 27, I'd be a liar if I said I wasn't scared of death. At that time in my journey, I was so fearful. But I think I got to a point where, like you, I accepted it.
Yeah.
It took me a really long time to get there. And I strongly believe it's not about the length of your life, it's what you do in the time that you have. And all of us here, we gave cancer the middle finger, so let's give death the middle finger too. Like, let's live our life to our
Absolutely.
fullest. And like everyone was saying here, I want everyone to remember me in a happy view, not a sad, dying, sick view.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with what everyone was saying here.
100%.
I pushed my family away when I had cancer.
Yikes.
I ignored the early signs of cancer. Can our agreeers please step forward?
For me, I just had a seizure, so I didn't really ignore signs. I just found out, right? I had headaches, but I didn't ignore them. I just didn't realize it was a big deal.
So for me, everything kind of started in the summer of 2016. I didn't think much of my injury just because my knee was hurting for 2 months and I've been an athlete my whole life. So when I have knee pain for 2 months, I sit elevated, take some pain meds, not think much of it because why would I assume the worst? And all of a sudden I can't
Who would
walk
think that?
anymore for my first week of junior year, and then all of a sudden I'm in a wheelchair, and then now I'm going into the hospital on a Friday and getting an x-ray and a CAT scan, bone scan, brain scan, MRI, and I'm like, wow, my knee must be really messed up. Like, I don't really know what this is. And then finding out that's
crazy.
Stage 2 bone cancer, osteosarcoma, and ignoring those signs so early on, and maybe if I got the x-ray sooner, what would have changed?
So throughout that period, as you know, you're in a wheelchair, you're going through that. Are they doing tests? It just takes a while to...
I just kept assuming that I messed up my knee swimming somehow, and I just kept ignoring it for 2 months, and then finally that first x-ray really just set the course on from there. So now, I always wonder, I'm like, man, I wonder if I got that x-ray 2 months before that, what would have happened? So, yeah.
Yeah.
He lost his leg,
Can you describe,
right?
like,
How fucked.
What were the symptoms, like, in more detail?
It was mainly a lot of just a knee pain, because for me, swimming, that was like the least non-contact sport you're gonna do, so I didn't think much of it. So it was just constant knee pain. My coaches would tell me just to not use my leg during practice, or just to use my. They would always think that I was trying to get out of it because I was 15 years old and practice would be at 4 in the morning or 5 in the morning, and I'm like, oh, I'm not trying to skip. I'm just hurting. And it's just over time, it was just kept, was more pain. So,
Petal, you seem ready.
Sorry, yeah. It was kind of
I'm just gonna look over.
Okay,
That means go.
Yeah, it was kind of like the same thing for me. Like, I was an athlete. I was doing D1 track and field and cross country, and I was just training over the summer. And I think I just went to the gym and did the elliptical one day, and the next day I wake up and my chest is hurting so bad. So I did end up going to the hospital, like the ER, just to like check it out. And they said it was all fine. They said it was just a strain. So as that month kept going on, and I got new symptoms, like I had a headache, I had still the chest pain, I had like night sweats. I was just like not feeling well. I was just like, oh, it's just a strain. Oh, I'm just feeling tired. Oh, I'm just training too hard. And I kept saying that to myself. And then when I got on campus finally, and I went to the training room and I asked if I could see the team doctor, I just kept getting more tests. And each test, like my blood was just looking a little wonky. And then finally I got the result that showed that I had acute lymphoblastic leukemia. So yeah, I think it was easy to just write off the symptoms as, oh, I'm just training too hard, like I'm fine. And I feel like that's what I kind of did.
Nobody thinks it's cancer. I know that's true.
So I was, at the time 33. I had been working in wellness as a yoga therapist. I ate organic. I have no family history of breast cancer. So, like many of us, it's not on our radar in any way. I had known a few people who had had cancer, but it wasn't any part of my, daily conversation or anything like that. And I feel like I was really arrogant at the time with my health. Like, oh, if you eat well and take care of yourself and manage your stress, like you're gonna live forever and never experience pain. And I don't know, I think, yeah, this was a very humbling experience in that way. But I had found my own lump, but it wasn't my first lump. So in my late 20s, I started getting lumps in my breasts. And of course, the first one I freaked out because I had no idea you could have a lump in your breast that wasn't cancer. And at that time, I didn't have health insurance. And so I went through Planned Parenthood, and there were grants where I could get an ultrasound or something for them to look at it. And it was always either a swollen lymph node or a cyst. So that had happened a few times in my 20s. Then I am at 33, I find the lump, and I'm like, it's just another goddamn cyst. Like, screw it. And so I ignored it for a whole year, and I watched it get bigger. And then I felt a lump in my armpit as well. And I was like, that's weird and different. And again, even then, I told myself, but I'm so healthy and I feel great. And I'm so connected to my body. I'm a yoga therapist. And I
love
not
her.
know. And so I'm so happy that eventually I actually had a good girlfriend that was also a yoga teacher, super healthy, and she had a crazy pain in her hamstring that wouldn't go away, and it turned out to be a stage 4 sarcoma and really aggressive. And I was like, oof, if she's young and healthy and can get cancer, like maybe I'm not exempt. And that's when I started getting things investigated.
Do you think the concerns around costs and insurance, was that like the primary thing causing
If we had
your
free
avoidance?
healthcare
Well,
in
I was
America.
self-employed at the time. Obamacare was new, but I didn't quite understand it. And again, very arrogant. Like I thought, oh, if I ever got sick, I just do acupuncture and I'll be great. And I have changed my tune.
Yeah, thank God.
In many ways, but
Thank God.
and I also I noticed this possibility that the story of, oh, if I would have gotten met earlier, then here I am, it has come back, and I live with stage 4 forever in some way, possibly. So there is that story of oh, if I went earlier, got it checked out earlier, I wouldn't be in this situation. But I don't know that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I know people that have, it's called DCIS, stage 0 breast cancer, and then they're stage 4 a year later. You don't know. And so that self-blaming, that self-whatever, I've tossed that out the window, but I do spread awareness. Hey, you're not too young, healthy, rich, poor, this, from wherever, anyone can get cancer, including healthy bodies.
That's why I was so caught off guard at 15.
Oh my gosh, that would
stage 2 osteosarcoma. I'm like, oh, why do I need a brain scan for my knee? That was my biggest question. I'm like,
Yeah.
And then
I wouldn't have thought of that at that age.
Yeah, and then having that
crazy.
huge kiwi lump all of a sudden on my knee, and oh, maybe this is a lot bigger than I could have ever thought. So
Very big deal.
Exactly. And
He's
just being an
cute.
athlete and finding out too, especially with runners, I feel like it's so easy for us to keep running through feeling bad because we're just oh, it's just a down period. So anytime I had a symptom, I was just oh, it's just a down period. But sometimes you need to realize no, you're not well. Yeah, that was pretty much it for me.
Well, and just the last thing I would add, thank you all for sharing. I think we all kind of struggle with balancing the paranoid thoughts that you have about your health. What is that? What is that feeling? And then having to be honest about what you're observing, and then balancing the skepticism.
Yeah.
It's sometimes just how could you have known?
Yeah.
I mean, it is a mental practice. Every new ache, pain, sensation. The reason I found out mine had returned was low back pain started happening. And I went to my doctor right away. I was like, hey, well, first of all, I had maybe another reason for it, but I was doing handstands on the beach. My new boyfriend at the time introduced him to my family, and so we were with my preteen nieces, and we wanted to get a photo where we're all in
Life is so
handstand at the
crazy.
same time. So
My
we took
God.
You're
a
that kind of yoga
million
person.
photos. Yeah, we took so many photos, and so by the end of that day, I was like, "Ow, I'm old. My back hurts." And then it just started getting worse, where I thought maybe I'd need a wheelchair at the airport. But I called my oncologist, and I'm like, hey, this happened. I'm experiencing some pretty intense pain. And I was told, hey, 90% of people have low back pain. Doesn't sound like a recurrence. It sounds like an injury. A couple months later, I came in limping. I'm like, are you sure? It has kind of really hurt. And I don't know. And she's like, no, it doesn't sound like it. And 8 months later, I had to advocate like hell to get scanned for it. And by that point, it was difficult to walk. My partner had to roll me over in the middle of the night so I could slide out of bed, slide down the stairs to go pee. And that's not right.
Yeah.
And then insurance denied to cover my scan.
Wow.
Because it wasn't medically necessary.
Oh my gosh.
And it ended
Healthcare
up
in
being
America.
Stage 4 cancer, and I have to say, I went back to each of those people, and I'm like, listen.
Yeah.
Right?
Let's bring in our disagreeers.
Wow.
I kind of didn't have the choice to ignore it because the lady that I worked with was sort of down my throat about it, and everybody else, for that matter. So
Why were they so adamant?
it just really, I mean, I can imagine from a mother's perspective, losing, or not losing, but her son getting a diagnosis and getting a diagnosis late to the point where it spread substantially and had to go through many rounds of chemotherapy and many surgeries. So, like I said, from a mother's perspective, I know that what she was dealing with. And she wanted to basically make sure to spread it to men. She said, she kept telling everybody to check your balls, essentially. I had testicular cancer. She would
Check
just
your
tell
balls.
everybody at work in a store that I worked at, which is fine.
That is
and
so
I was
funny.
like, I'll be fine, you know? I was young. I was
How
I was
cute.
22 when I actually got the diagnosis, and I wasn't really thinking about anything, let alone that. I mean, I was just looking for my next beer for the most part. And
Yeah, I was only 18.
and I was like, I'd be fine. And then, you know,
don't think
you
about
have a
shit like
voice in
that.
the back of your head sitting there in the shower, and I'm like, hold on a second. What is this? And then I was like, and then when I felt what I had, like the tumors, I was like, oh yeah, this is it for sure. This is weird. So then luckily the process moved like particularly fast. It was kind of bizarre, going from like the scan to the surgery and then scheduling out chemo. It was like, sort of felt like a fever dream how fast it happened.
So immediately.
It was just like, oh, so this is for real. So I didn't really have the opportunity to like ignore it. Without her in my ear, I probably would have, honestly, which is like,
What
a bummer
20 or
to say,
2-year-old
but,
would
you
think about
know,
cancer
there's
in their balls?
dudes at my age and where I'm from, it's kind of like I said, going to the doctor could be signaling as like a weak thing, or they might be ineffective. I know people have lost a lot of trust in the medical industry, which I don't necessarily agree with at all times, but people could have ignored it, or I could have ignored it, and it wasn't like a cool thing to do, or it wasn't a tough thing to do, you know? So.
I don't mean for this to be like an awkward follow-up, but like, what's the appropriate way for someone to scan themselves for testicular
Essentially, you know, you essentially just have to feel. It's bizarre. Like you just have to feel with. I think they recommend with like a little, dinosaur claw. I don't know if that's what they call it.
On your
but
balls?
Yeah, you just feel, and then you're just feeling for lumps and things that don't feel quite right. And they stand out. I would say it's like feels like essentially just like a hard thing that's sitting there, and you could feel them by just rubbing your finger over it. But after I did find them, I didn't sleep for a little bit, and I didn't really say anything to anybody. And then I said to my wife, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go to the doctor. This doesn't.
I said to my wife, hey, I'm gonna go to the
pretty
doctor.
quiet because I didn't want to be dramatic. And then I just told like
That's
one
so
person at work,
sad,
I'm like,
man.
I'm pretty sure I have testicular cancer. And like, really? All right, see you later.
Nice.
It was like a friend. I shouldn't make it seem like it was like a manager or nothing like that.
I just had a conversation with one of my sort of like exes like a few months ago, like probably like 4 months ago, and I think I brought up something about having brain cancer still, and he says you still have, he said you still have cancer. I thought you were cured. And I said, no, I would probably be living with my brain cancer for the rest of my life because it's in a part of my brain that I can't receive treatment in without causing defects to my functionality. So it's just something I'm going to have to live with. And his response was just this, all he said was R.I.P. So I definitely can relate to that.
We need to roast that person right now. What's
Right?
their name?
Yeah. I mean, here's his address. No.
That's
How
fucked.
old were you?
22 when I found it, and then by the time I was done with like chemo and all that, I must have been 23. I got surgery right before Christmas of whatever year that was. It must have been 2015, I think.
That's the worst.
And then I had to sit at home for a few months and just like play video games and take Percocet and then be fine. And then there's chemo after that, and
Right.
yeah, it's just weird how fast it goes.
Yeah.
Seriously.
And there wasn't much I could do. After when I was in chemo, I was immunocompromised, so I couldn't go to work at all.
Yep.
So I just had to sit at home. And
It was so
find things
scary
to
going
fill
through
the time
COVID,
so you don't think too much, you know?
fearing
So
your
Around
immunity.
the time when I was 25, I started
Horrible.
to kind of have really bad monthly menstruation cycles. Never in my life had I had any health issues. I was fairly healthy, living my best life in my 20s. And around the age of 25, my periods start to get really bad. And then I started to get migraines, never experienced migraines. Started to get back knee, never had back knee. So I can proudly say that I followed up, went to all of my PCP appointments, and all of my doctors said, you probably just need birth control, or you're feeling anxious and depressed, here's an antidepressant. No one thought
How
I had
fucked.
breast cancer. And then fast forward to age 27, I got my monthly checkups, nothing. No one tried to address it. I found my lump, and I was on vacation in Korea, and I went to the doctor, and they're like, oh, your lump's probably eczema. So I feel like I didn't ignore. I knew I had something going on chemically within me, but it wasn't anyone's thought to kind of diagnose me with breast cancer, because breast cancer happens to women above the age of 40. So I love this question because whenever someone asks me about your symptoms, did you ignore them? What were they? It comes from a place of fear. What do I need to look out for? And I
Right.
think the takeaway is you have to know your one and only body and really advocate for yourself. When you're in your doctor's appointments, speak up and
Ask
talk about
questions.
what's going on because it could be something or it may not.
Yeah, when I'm in the doctor, I'm just like, whatever you say. That can be hard.
That's the big thing for me. Same thing is like, I'm like the person where it's like, oh yeah, you know, just like exactly what you said, just chill out, you know, it's nothing to worry about. But like, luckily, like you said, my mom has always been like pushing. And she's the one that's like, no, something's wrong. I want to get these checkups. And they're like, it's not necessary. It's like, well, I want them, you know?
Right.
So when I was young at 4, it was, I didn't really have a choice, you know? It's not like I was like, oh, well, I need to go get checked up. But
At 4.
my belly, I guess, just started getting really big. And my mom was like, this is kind of weird, you know? He's 4. We're not feeding him like crazy. Like, so we went and got a checkup, and they were like, oh, it's just pneumonia, you know? I got a x-ray, and it was just a cloud in my chest. And they're like, oh, it's pneumonia, and it's fine. And it's always good to get second opinions, third opinions, fourth opinions, because sure enough, a couple months later, I was at this story I've told my whole life is I was at Chuck E. Cheese and it was ready to go. And
Not
my
Chuck E.
mom's like, all right,
Cheese.
let's go, you know. And I'm just like, I can't. And she's like, what do you mean, you know? Like, let's go. It's time to go. And she like grabbed me, and my feet were just dangling, and like I couldn't walk. And they took me back in. And I had a stage 4 neuroblastoma. So it's like the same thing, you know, do your checkups, because even if a doctor says it's nothing to worry about, it definitely could be.
Yeah.
So important. My heart's like pounding out of my chest because your story, my story, same thing. And it's so important that people hear that you gotta know if you feel like something's off, keep going back, going back, because we think imaging is everything, and it isn't. And I've been diagnosed twice. So the first time I had stage 2 breast cancer, I rolled over in bed one morning and felt a lump. But because my brother had died from testicular cancer, I was traumatized by that. And it was the July 3rd, it was the weekend of 4th of July. July 5th, I was in the doctor's office. And I was like, something's wrong. And it was. But when it came back, stage 4, weird things were happening, like you're describing, right? My shoulder was hurting. I go in, I get an x-ray, it's fine. My back swelled up, a big lump on my back. I went in, I got an x-ray, nothing there. I'm like, I look like Quasimodo, like something's there. No, the
it's
x-ray
like, what
doesn't
is
show
this?
anything, right? I ended up slipping and falling on my hip. And the pain was so intense, I went to the emergency room, did an x-ray, did a bone density. You're fine, nothing, it's probably just gonna bruise. And after weeks of it not getting better, a friend of mine who's a doctor said, this is too long. We gotta go to a surgeon and get an MRI. And that's when they found it in the hip, and then the full body scans, and it was just everywhere, right? So everywhere it had swelling on my head, on my back, and everywhere there was cancer. And so yeah, I went in immediately, and I kept going back. But it's such an important thing to realize it. We've got to advocate and be so tenacious and not dismiss things that don't seem right. Because if you know something's wrong, you're right. Something's wrong.
So for some of you, even though you weren't ignoring the signs, it felt like other people were.
Yes.
Like Alex and Pedal, I was an athlete. I was on the Olympic development team for windsurfing. Like I traveled the world doing this. I was an athlete, and I was in college as well. And I started to feel super, super tired, and I was like, there's something wrong. And I didn't ignore the signs. I was like, I know there's something wrong, but I thought I was like anemic. I had no idea I was gonna end up with stage 4 cancer like I did, like a bunch of us did here. And it was just crazy to go from feeling like on top of the world to like just being like, one day you wake up and you're like, you know, I'm tired, I'm having night sweats, and I don't feel like myself. And that was just like, to get diagnosed with cancer was just crazy. And I had to advocate for myself because I was just tired. My symptoms were fatigue, like a little bit of fevers, night sweats, lack of appetite. It wasn't anything like a huge lump or I was paralyzed. It wasn't like your story. So you definitely have to advocate for yourself. I love what you were saying.
Definitely do.
Yeah.
Real quick, do you mind if we went in a circle? What stage did you catch your cancer at? Do you guys mind sharing?
Yeah, so I had stage 1B hormone-positive breast cancer.
Yeah, mine was 1B as well. So it was I think it was 3 or 4 tumors that were present, and they were lymphovascular invasion or spreading, but it wasn't necessarily detectable in like lymph nodes or anything like that.
So is that stage 1?
Yeah, 1B.
Got
That I
Stage
had to do
2 for
chemo
me.
still, just so it was a precaution, because it could have been spreading to the point where it was in my blood going to lymph nodes. So it wasn't chemo to necessarily kill anything else off of my body, but it was a precautionary measure to make sure that it doesn't continue the spread.
Growth.
Mine was a stage 4 neuroblastoma when I was 4 years old, and that was when I had tumors all throughout all my organs and everything. And then in 2019, I like kind of lost my voice for a week, and then I got it checked out. They stuck a needle in and sucked some stuff out of my thyroid to like nodules, and then they're like, yeah, it doesn't look good. We gotta pretty much take half your thyroid out, and I don't really know what stage that was. They kind of just said once they removed it, they can check it up, and they're like, yeah, there's cancer in that side, so we should remove the other side as well. So I had to have the same surgery again a couple months later, and then yeah, that side didn't have cancer in it. So I was like, okay, well, hopefully it doesn't spread. So I'm still going through all the steps of like, you know, going back to the doctors and getting ultrasounds on my neck to make sure nothing is spread and all that stuff.
How about you, Al?
I had a stage 2 osteosarcoma the first time.
I had acute lymphoblastic leukemia. There's not necessarily a stage for it, but when I got diagnosed, my blast cell count was at 36%, and I think a normal one should be at like 20% or lower. So that's like how we knew I had it.
Yeah, I had between a stage 3 and a stage 2 astrocytoma brain tumor. And at first I was told, oh, you're fine. It's not a big deal at all. Had more scans. Was not fine. And then the biopsy turned into 6 surgeries at UCLA. So I've had literally 7 brain surgeries. It's been a wild life. It's been a wild life.
Mine, in 2015, it was a late stage 2 or possibly early 3 estrogen positive breast cancer.
Yeah, that was mine
and then
too.
in
Late
2021,
2, early 3.
stage 4 metastatic. And then it had spread to my countless places in my bones, some spots in my liver, and then also some lymph nodes in my stomach.
So scary.
Yeah, in 2020, I was diagnosed with hepatosplenic T-cell lymphoma. It's a rare and aggressive cancer that attacks the liver and the spleen, and it's when you get that diagnosis, it's automatically a stage 4 cancer because it's so rare and aggressive, and the survival rate is 15% and below. It's very, very aggressive form of blood cancer.
Well, thank God you're here.
The first time in 2011, it was stage 2B hormone-positive breast cancer. And then in 2020, it was advanced metastatic breast cancer through my bones and a big tumor and fluid in my chest and all of that fun stuff. Yeah.
Thank you all for sharing.
awful.
I thought it would be good clarifying information. All right, let's reset. I trust alternative medicine as much as Western medicine. Will the agreeers please step forward?
Not as much. I do trust it, just not as much. I still get people commenting,
Laura,
telling me
you're
to
out.
try
You're a hippie,
tea.
Yeah. You're out on a limb.
Yeah. I think that
Yeah, I don't mean to cut her off, but I get people literally telling me to try teas and stuff. It's like teas are not gonna, 1, break through my brain barrier, and 2, it's not gonna like, what is drinking a fucking tea gonna do, girl? I understand that there's benefits to it, but it's not gonna cure brain cancer. So sometimes when people comment stuff like that, I'm like, oh, you have no idea what you're talking about. You're making me panic. Stop it.
I value both equally.
trust
like
both,
my
yeah.
whole approach to my health is
Me
an
too.
integrated approach. I would not say no to either side, and I believe that both sides have value. And
100%
I
agree.
think, Western medicine, I'm so grateful for. Like,
Right.
I wouldn't be here.
Same.
3 of the 4 of my children wouldn't be here if not for that. So I embrace it, but I don't reject the other side. Because in my belief, the standard of care is attacking the cancer, right? They're giving you medicine that destroy cancer cells, but those medicines also often damage healthy, normal cells.
Yeah.
So for me, the complementary approaches. So to me, alternative care means I do this instead of that, right? But integrated complementary is I do both. This is helping to take care of cancer cells. This is helping to keep my normal cells even healthier, to keep my quality of life doing well, and strengthening my immune
Right.
system so that my body also can help with that healing
And
process.
feel better.
I think that
Sorry to interrupt you.
no, go
What
ahead.
are some forms of like alternative medicine that you've found really valuable?
So I do Reiki, I do infrared saunas, I do
I love her.
acupuncture. Of course, I have a really whole, mostly
I
organic
love her
diet
so
that I
much.
follow. Stress reduction techniques, journaling, all of these things are in the alternative care world. I do take supplements. I do work with a naturopath who is a trained oncologist and a naturopathic physician. So it was important to me that someone understands the standard of care world that was working with me to support my healthy body as well. So supplements, and there are things like intravenous high-dose vitamin C therapy, there's hyperbaric oxygen treatments. Those two, the oxygen I have not done yet, but there are lots of those that are available to people. And I look at them as like the whole package, right? I want to take everything into consideration.
Take all the treatment you can
When
get. Anything that can help
we're
your body.
managing our health, I look at it as like, I'm the CEO and this is all my board of advisors. So I
Right.
love the science. So tell me what that is, why you think that works,
it
how that's
does.
going to benefit my body. And then I'll make a decision as to whether or not that works for me and
Right.
with the whole overall plan. So I wouldn't say no to either side or anything because I want to be open to anything that can give me a longer life with good quality.
Yeah. So it's not or, it's and.
It's and, absolutely
Exactly.
for me.
Gotcha. Can we bring the disagreeers in?
Could not agree more with that.
I almost changed my mind, right? I was about to walk up right in the middle of it. You're talking.
Come join me.
Well, because I was like, yeah, because you said like hippie, right? And like immediately I just started thinking about like religion and God and prayer. And I'm like, oh, I guess that is a big type of it. And I have a story that I never really like tell, but it's been in my mind. And when I was so young, I was raised Catholic, and so they thought I was gonna die. So they were like, well, let's do his first communion, you know? And at that moment, my grandpa was in the back, and he was praying, saying that, like, please give me, like, let me die and not him. And I guess there's a picture of me receiving my first Holy Communion, and there's like a big light on his chest as he was saying that. And like 6 months later, he was gone, and I was in remission.
Wow.
So I think prayer and religion and
crazy.
God is a huge thing for people, and I think it helps a lot of people praying for you or just praying yourself. And I do believe that.
I believe in prayer. I just don't believe in the Holy Bible or Jesus or any of that weirdness. I believe in manifestation, prayer, and other forms of mental, constructive ways of thinking. And just God is not my thing. I'm so happy it helps him though. That's awesome.
Actually helps you get through it.
Yeah, I have chills.
Believing in a higher power.
And I get chills just like thinking about it. I'm like, oh.
No, thanks for sharing. Yeah.
I think this is a difficult conversation because, like many things in our world, it's so binary, where it's like you're this side or that side. And I will say, and some of us in this room might have had this, it's like something to the effect of 70% of people have had a bad experience with Western medicine. And I think people oftentimes convolute actual medicine and doctors with pharmaceuticals and pharmaceutical industries. Is kind of like weaves together. And although doctors do have to follow, they're prescribing this stuff and they have to go with the modern insurance method, I think they're held to a very rigorous standard when it comes to actual doctors. And in my experience, when I was there going through chemo, all the doctors and the nurses were very caring and worked very hard. But I have had bad experiences with doctors.
So have
for
I.
sure.
Especially with nurses.
Where they seem like they're unaffected, but you got to realize how much patience these people have to see in order to keep their practice open. But I think Western medicine is obviously effective. Can it have some tweaks and can it continue to get better? Absolutely. And I'm not necessarily against alternatives. There just needs to be more rigorous research and accountability. Because for the most part, a lot of it's anecdotal when it comes down to it. It's based on, this is how I felt after alternative medicine. And I'm not saying all of them. I don't want to say anything about anyone in particular, but a lot of it is anecdotal with minimal research or minimal organizations that keep them accountable, I would say.
But medicine...
Oh, I'm sorry, Bethany, you can speak to kind of being on that side where there was a lot of distrust? Can you?
Yeah, I mean, like Laura,
I love
I
Bethany.
do embrace an
She's
integrative
such a
approach
sweetheart.
in healing, and I'm a big believer in like why not use the best of both worlds. I had such an inner struggle at that first diagnosis, being such a natural person, and then being confronted with so many, like all of the Western medicine stuff that I really did. I had to work on opening my mind and my mind about it, and that's been my primary, I guess, resource, inner resource the whole time, is trying to see the beauty and the kindness in all of it. Part of my diagnosis story too is that I was working with a naturopath at first with thermography because I was afraid of mammograms. I bought into the belief system mammograms cause cancer, they're like bad for you, and so I did not get a mammogram. In the beginning, I did thermography, and it failed to detect my cancer multiple times. And if I followed that naturopath's guidance, I don't think I'd be here today. And I have a lot of friends who have either dove in, all natural healing, and I can tell you, in now 9 years, they're
You
either
need a
dead
mix of both.
or they've switched tunes to tried chemo or some other integrative thing. So to find practitioners that embrace all of it is gold to me. Like
Gotta
gold.
find
Which
I
is
wish.
becoming more common.
Yes, the
I would say.
shaming,
God.
the judging, the
Thank God it's
Western
becoming more
medicine, a bunch of like, they're only in it for the profit. They're trying to like make you sicker, and everything's poison, and they're trying to kill you. It's like
I don't
literally
believe that.
voices that I heard, and
I
I'm
don't
like,
believe it.
I don't know, cancer
You've known
shrinking.
people. Something you said I wanted to follow up on. You've known people who have missed, not detected fatal illnesses because of that.
For thermography?
Yeah, or just because of alternative medicine.
Yeah, they're not here.
Wow.
But to that point also, so for my story, in 2018, because I had follow-up CT scans, in 2018, I had a 3.5 centimeter tumor in my lymph nodes, and the radiologist didn't write it in the report. So when I discovered cancer in 2020 and they compared it to the last CT, they're like, well, you never treated that tumor. And I was like, well, no one ever told me I had that tumor.
Oh my goodness.
And I've come across many other cases similar to that. So to your point, and to your point, Nick, there is some good science behind stuff, but it's hard because how do you take people
I don't
and
want
put
to
them in
sound
a
hurt for not
controlled
being
environment
included,
for
but
like
I
a
am.
year
This
and
is
watch
really a
every
bummer.
single thing they eat, right, or do, or therapy? You just
I would have
can't do
loved
it,
this.
right?
It would have been so
And so it's
healing.
going to be really hard to get really good double-blind, placebo-controlled kind of
Right.
studies on alternative care for a lot of it, but some like acupuncture and that there is. And for years also, Bethany, like the shaming on both sides causes people, I think, who are open to an integrative approach to hide what they're doing from their standard of care person, who then can be doing something that might harm them because they're doing something else.
It just becomes like politicized.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
bringing these worlds together and saying there's
100%.
value on both sides, there's danger on both sides. You could overtreat with natural therapies just as you could overtreat with standard of care. So I think it's like looking at the value that each side offers and then what works for the person, right? What they're open to and what they feel comfortable with.
Kind of like you said earlier, like I think avoiding a pill is a good idea. So I'm not necessarily like always defending Western medicine. And I think that there's ones out there that show a ton of promise. One of my best friends is a chiropractor. I'm really happy for him. And I am proud that he's doing that and he's having a successful career and he's taking care of patients because it is coming from a good place. I think it does show some signs of evidence for sure, but he's doing it to take care of patients.
Right.
So there just needs to be like
Help
put
people.
a middle ground where they can
The
kind of
pun.
meets,
It's
I would say.
How cute.
It's important.
I think medicine is so general. Like, you don't know how an individual is going to react to a treatment because I ended up with chronic graft-versus-host disease, which is a disease secondary to cancer treatment. And there's, like, so many different lines of treatment for it. And if I was doing alternative medicine for that, there's no chance I would be here. But I do love what you were saying about the integrated therapy. It's so true. Because before cancer, I was seeing a homeopathic doctor my whole life. I never took Advil. I was never going to take Tylenol, never. I would drink water, try to eat well. Never was the type to ever take any drugs. And then when I got cancer, people would message me and be like, you need to try dog dewormer to cure your cancer. Don't do chemotherapy. And I was like, I'm doing chemotherapy because I want to survive, not because I want to do it.
Because I want to live.
Yeah.
Yeah, dog deworming. I get that a lot.
I've heard that.
It's a big one.
Many times too.
People recommend the
Follow-up
weirdest
question
stuff.
I wanted to ask just on this topic.
Creepy
You know, what's your
things.
level of faith, trust in cancer research today? Michelle,
Ooh.
I don't know if you have opinions, but start with you.
I actually work in oncology. I managed a cancer center prior to my diagnosis, and now I work in a
Wow.
cancer hospital, and I see the blood, sweat, and tears that go into our treatments, the R&D, research and development.
protect people.
And so working with these individuals, seeing the rigor that goes into it, I believe in all the treatments and the technology, not saying everything is 100%, but if I'm speaking about my journey and my treatments, I strongly believe in it.
Yeah. Anybody else have an opinion?
Yeah, I mean, like for me, like 'cause when I was doing, when I had stage 4 and I was given 3 months left to live and a 10% chance. So when I was told that, I was willing to try anything.
Thank God
And so
you're
to
here,
go into
Alex.
a clinical trial that was like a phase 3 at the time, I didn't really know if it was even going to work. And then the fact that I'm here now, hoping, you know, there's never remission again, or not remission, sorry, and it doesn't relapse or anything, but
Right.
I've put my full trust into it because there was no guarantee that it was going to work, or there was no guarantee that chemo was going to work. So I was willing to put I was all in, or either that or I wasn't going to be here. So that was kind of my thought process.
I get it. I'm like still all in because I'm still in treatment for a very rare disease, and the drug that I'm taking now was approved 2 years ago. They just made it, and that's the drug that saved my life when I was in the hospital for, like I said, 5 months. I was dying, and this drug came in, this pill, and that's what got me better and got me out of the hospital. So I do trust in the research and development, all the stuff they're doing, because it's why I'm here. It's why a majority of us are still here right now.
It's just such a complicated disease.
So
It
complicated.
reaches it's so vast. Like, not only
So
anybody at this,
scary.
except for maybe a few, all of our diagnoses were fairly different, I would say. And it takes time. And if you think that they're not doing research and they're not trying to get better and grow, I think they are. You know, like, I think there's a ton going into it. It's just going to take time, and it's very complicated. And maybe we will never have a cure. I was actually in the mindset when I was younger, and I didn't know anything. I'd barely read a book before. But I walked to the front desk to get chemo, and like they were like, just so you know, you have to have $1,000 deposit, otherwise you can't see you. And I was broke. I was in college at the time, and I was like,
So
all right.
sick.
And I was like, wow, they're never gonna find a cure. At the time, I was like, well, it's so profitable. But let's be honest, like, we live in a capitalist society. A cure would be very profitable too. So it's kind of like, it's a downer approach to say cancer's, you know, has its own economy in a way. If they can find a cure, they will. And there's plenty of smart people out there trying.
It's an interesting
And
perspective.
there's good and bad in everything,
Yeah.
right? And there's like, we're all sitting here because of standard of care medicine, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, when I got my diagnosis, I was like, give me something, you know, while I figure this out. And so I
Treat
think,
me.
again, it's,
Right.
there's good and bad. We got to take the good and accept that, you know, yes, there's maybe politics and money and stuff behind it too, but it's also saving lives also, right? And we just have to look at the good in everything that's available to us, I think.
Yeah.
Metastatic breast cancer in particular, I feel like has had such a focus on research and funding that, yeah, a lot of the drugs that I'm on weren't around, you know, 4 or 5 years ago. And I'm in a clinical trial right now. It's my first one. And I think there's a funny thing about clinical trials where you think like, oh, you're a like guinea pig or it's some experimental crazy. I'm like, actually that clinical trials are becoming, think of it as the most like cutting edge cancer
are.
treatment
Right.
out there
Very
because it
rigorous.
takes a long time
100%.
for something to get approved. So
lot of
I'm
money, too.
excited that I'm in one now and that, you know, I'm not only getting that support, but I'm able to support research, you know, in
That could
some
save
way
lives
as
in the
well.
future.
And what I hear for MBC, it's that it is starting to shift more into being managed as a chronic illness than a death sentence, and that's very exciting.
That's an important message.
Very
Yeah.
exciting.
It's
And it's not a
beautiful.
death sentence.
And I'm like, no, it's a life sentence in my experience, and I want to have it be a long one.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Aw.
it's exciting, the shifts and changes. And is there a long way to go? Hell yeah, there's a long way to go. But I'm grateful that it's moving in that direction.
Yeah. Well, you all seem like experts because of your experiences. Sorry, Patty.
I was
go
going
for
to
it.
say, I think my thing, like I definitely trust like the research and everything. I think the issue I have is that I forgot what the stat is, so like don't quote me, but children's blood cancers or children's like treatment for like acute leukemia, at least the protocol I'm on, because I'm on a children's protocol, it's severely underfunded. So a lot of the drugs that like we would still have to do are like still very old drugs and like not the best. So
newest
I think that's
medicine.
my thing, is that like certain cancers have like don't have as much funding
It's
as like
pediatric cancer.
Yeah, pediatric cancers
In general, they have very low funding compared to other cancers.
Yeah.
It's
So-
true.
Which it's important to be critical of that type of thing, I would say. And there's a way to be critical, but also
100%.
kind of, I don't know how to put this, but besides put your trust into it as well. Like you can say that out there and say that there's minimal funding to kids, and then hopefully they get that on the right step. But oftentimes people have a hard time being critical without completely throwing it out. Throwing out the
Gotta
baby,
have
throw the
faith.
baby out with the bathwater, whatever the term is. It's kind of like, well, that means they're evil. They're not saving kids. There's for sure a way to go, but we just gotta, use our voices to hopefully get that out there.
Oh, I see what you're saying. The final prompt is, cancer has made my life better. Will the agreeers step forward?
I would step forward for this too.
I was fairly,
Believe it
I
or
wasn't
not.
as young as some people, but I was fairly young when I
Maybe-
got it, and I was,
Really, before anyone speaks, guys, really, really, really dealt with a lot throughout my life. Dealt with sexual assault, physical abuse from, ex-boyfriends, ex-relationships, and a variety of other really rough things, and did not want to be here for most of my life. And I don't mean to be really depressing, but I honestly, for a long time, and even still to this day, do sort of think I manifested my brain cancer, my brain tumor, because I did not want to live for so long. And when I got that diagnosis, it was like, I have to live no matter what. I'm going to be here for the long run. Who knows if that's true? I still have to get MRIs every 6 months for the rest of eternity. But I am hopeful. Cancer may not have, it definitely was the worst thing that could ever happen to me, but also maybe it was one of the best things too. It's just so confusing. I'm so bummed I was not able to be in this discussion. This really is sad. It really hurts my feelings.
a pretty dumb person. Like, I didn't really think about much. I was in school, but I didn't really have any, necessarily any values or aspirations at the time, I would say. Like, I was just living day to day, looking to drink and doing nothing. And when it happened, I still was, fine. And when I was sitting down doing chemo, I was still the same person. And it takes time to evolve. But I remember sitting next to some lady at the clinic, and she was stage 4. And she was just telling me stories about how, she essentially was just buying time. She was just buying a few extra days for the grandkids and stuff like that. And I remember that having a pretty profound effect on me. It kind of that, along with other things happening at the time, just sort of makes my perspective evolve a little bit. And I was just got motivation to kind of live a little bit better of a life. I know I was still young and I had time to learn and do different things, but I just wanted to live a straight life, and I wanted to be more disciplined and do good with my job. And I started lifting weights a bunch afterwards and gained a bunch of weight. And I looked enormous, and now I'm not anymore. But
enormous.
Yeah, I just wanted to do better, and some of that could have been some of the stories I've heard, and then some of that could have been just all the people I saw around me stepping up and doing better. So, and you kind of get the perspective that I knew I was going to be fine from the beginning, but I knew, maybe there's a shot that this is it, so you want to kind of do better. And I don't necessarily want to say be remembered, because I don't have an ego like that, but you do want to have people have a good perspective of you, and you want to do the right thing and leave an impact, I would say.
Yeah. Alex, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I love having one leg. This thing, I can't thank cancer enough for this. Look, this is great. It's just my armrest now.
Oh my God.
But no, I'm super. It's gonna beep for a second.
It's don't do that.
He is so cute.
Hey, I don't want that yoga
But no, it's just I'm so glad that I got cancer at such a young age, because it's given me such a unique perspective on life, and just an appreciation of my disability, and just the way I look at it now. It's it's a beautiful day to be alive, and I can see it in you. It's just it's so amazing, and just meeting you guys, and just, I don't know, I'm just grateful to be alive. I wake up every day, I don't have cancer, and that's a blessing. Now it's just because I officially beat cancer in January this year, and officially free, so it's finally to get to that point. It's just
beautiful.
It's just grateful to be alive.
That's great.
I love what you're saying. The perspective thing is so true.
Yeah.
I think before cancer, I took my health like for granted. Like you said, you were an athlete. I was an athlete. I took every day that I was out there on the water or in the gym for granted, and I still can't do what I used to do because of my disease still. But going through cancer, it's maybe the person I am, because before cancer, I was a little lost. I was like, what do I want to do with my life? What am I doing here? And I think it showed me how important and short life is. It really gave me this perspective that if you want to do something, like you said, go to like Iceland or something, like I'm going. Like I was like coming here for California, I'm going. Like I haven't lived life, there's been no regrets since I was diagnosed. Yeah. And that was my biggest thing. I told myself after I went through my bone marrow transplant that after I would do everything that I could do and be with my friends as much as I can, because those are the most precious moments in life.
Yeah.
I've had the same thoughts when you're like, what do you want to do with your life, you know? I was 4 or so when my whole life I've been talking about it, but I didn't really understand what it was altogether until like later on, you know, I did like a project on it or something, and then more recently, you know, I was writing about it myself, and I wrote my own story, and like I don't think I've ever cried that hard in my whole life.
Yeah.
Of like talking about my story, thinking about my parents and what they went through, you know, and now I see like a little 4-year-old, I'm like, I can't imagine that being my kid and then them telling like you're done, like that your kid's done. So what I always thought like cancer was like a crutch. Like I didn't want people to feel sorry for me. And now I'm like, you know what, this is what happened to me, so I'm gonna use it to my advantage. So what I actually did now, just starting out, is it's the reason why I'm wearing this shirt.
I love it.
It's they gave me 5% chance to live, so I started a company called 5percentco.com that I'm gonna give back to those kids
beautiful.
fighting cancer. Not only, you know, money, but just hope. My story. I think it's really
so
important to
beautiful.
like tell the parents and the kids, you know, and just like the Cookie Man when I was a kid, you know, just a little bit of happiness in those kids will bring my life up too for the better.
And that mustache is giving me hope. Beautiful, man. I love that.
Yeah, I love it. I had like a really a blessing in my first diagnosis is that during that diagnostic phase, it was a few weeks or months like until I finally knew. So I knew like this
I
potential
love the two
like
girls
it
in
could
the
be
end
cancer,
so
but
much. The two
didn't know if
women,
it
they're
was
so
for
beautiful.
sure. First,
So
I just
beautiful.
lost it completely and spiraled, and that was fun. And then I decided, okay, this isn't helpful, and started reaching back into my little toolboxes of trying to cope with it. And I like developed this lens of looking at, okay, like let's say it is cancer, and how might that be happening for me instead of to me?
I love that.
You know, how could this make my life better? How might, you know, like obviously you think your life is over. How could it just be beginning? How could it improve my relationships, give me my career a different direction? And I started just entertaining those how could this be good possibilities, started opening my mind in a way where I was like, okay, like I'm gonna be okay either way here. And now, you know, flash forward, every single gift I anticipated has come true and then some. Like I'm an author because of cancer.
Manifest it.
Am like, you know, my career, I'm a
Manifestation, babe.
mindset coach. I get to work with people with chronic illness and meet them exactly where they
awesome.
are because I've
That's so
freaking
cool.
been there. And like, we are all here
Yeah, exactly.
because of cancer. And that to me, like, I don't know, it's so beautiful. Like I would never ever trade the lessons that I've learned in this journey. And that whole like, I decided instead of fighting cancer, seeing as an enemy or here to like ruin me, I look at it as a wise teacher and I call it my guru cancer. And I'm like, what are you here to teach me? How are you here to make my life better? And I always like to clarify that it doesn't mean if I learn these life lessons, I wouldn't be going through cancer. Like I always like to, no, it's like shitstorms
Makes you
happening.
stronger.
And how can I make the best of this?
The best of a shitty
use it
situation.
as a catalyst to live my life on purpose and
Right.
and have an even richer life than I would have.
What a
you know?
great mindset. I love that.
Yeah,
It's
it's
beautiful.
very helpful.
That is
I want to invite Petal.
Yeah, come.
You've been patient.
I like, want to give you a hug.
Also really appreciate your honesty.
Yeah.
I think on one, like both things could be true at once. So like in one sense, some aspects of my life are better, but like in another sense, like some aspects aren't. So like, for example, I have developed like a new perspective on life. I know like I know what's important to me and I know like what I want to like continue doing, or if I want to do something now, I definitely will do it knowing that you could be gone pretty much just like that. I also was able to start my YouTube channel where I talk about like different patient stories. So I probably would not have started that.
What's your channel?
Oh, it's just my name, Petal Palmer. Yeah, and I only started it in July of 2023, and it's already grown to like 140,000 subscribers, which to me is a lot. So I was
Real
like,
famous.
so I was like,
That is a
yeah,
lot.
So like I wouldn't have started that channel, and I wouldn't have like met so many people and like been able to share so many stories and be able to connect with so many other patients and like be so interested in patient advocacy. Like had I not.
I'll
been
have to reach
diagnosed
out
with
to her.
cancer. In another sense, why
Honestly.
I wouldn't say like
Oh,
made my life
cool.
better. Like overall, I guess
That's
it's
awesome.
just. Like I lost, like I guess a lot that I was able to do. Like since I was an athlete, I used to run all the time and train all the time and travel, and that was like a big part of my life. But now, like last year when I was in like a better phase of treatment, I was feeling a lot better. Like I was trying to run, and like before I could do 90-minute runs at 7 minutes per mile or something. But like now, like I can't even break 10 minutes in like 1 mile if I even tried. So it's kind of like I just lost some aspects of my life that were quite important to me. And also, I guess it also just depends on what like portion,
I used
like
to
what
do
part of
cross country.
treatment
I
I'm
know
in.
that
So
exact
last
feeling.
month, like when I was feeling like super ill and I was in the hospital, that took me out from classes for over a month. And now I'm like super behind in all my classes, and I'm trying to graduate in May next month, and like having to try. Like cancer just kind of made things very inconsistent where it like makes me fall behind in classes, and if I do want to graduate I have to now like grind. So like these past few weeks I've just been grinding trying to like finish like up classes and stuff, so it kind of just makes stuff very hard. And that's been the past since I was diagnosed junior year and I was senior now. Like it's just made school very inconsistent, which has made studying very inconsistent and has made me very stressed out, like just trying to juggle all of that
The
at
difficulties
once,
of
I would
life
say.
with cancer.
That's real. I want to ask just one final question just to end the video, because that was our last prompt. You know, this video is going to be on the internet. Somebody somewhere out there at some point is going to watch it because they've received difficult news from their doctor or a difficult diagnosis. And you don't all have to answer it, but you know, if there's any kind of brief perspective or piece of knowledge that you'd want to share with that person who's watching the video right now, what would you say? Michelle, could you start?
I think what I would say is aim for courage, because courage is when you move forward despite all the negative feelings that you're feeling within yourself. It's so scary, and to cry and to kind of feel fear, do it in your own terms. If that's how you feel, go for it. And so I would say aim for courage and move forward, and don't aim for that perfection.
Mm-hmm. You hear it like probably a little bit too much if you watch like the NFL or like any type of sports draft, but everybody just says they have to get over adversity. And they're talking about a game. But it really, like we as humans for the most part work off of challenges. And although this is a really big challenge that you don't necessarily have full control over, if you are able to stay positive and get through it, it is something that can be used as a tool to enrich your life and give you a better perspective.
My big thing is don't let the what ifs overtake your life.
Right.
You know, because that
Screw
can
the what
cause you
ifs.
stress. It can cause you, you know, to fall down in this hole that you don't want to be in. So
falter.
my whole aspect, same thing. Stay positive.
Fight.
And just kind of live each day at a time. Things will be rough, and then some days will be better. And you know, you get through it, and then most of us were like, it's my story that I love to tell, and it's like a happy thing for me. It's not always bad, so
Even if I'm
you
still
get through
living with
those
it, but
harsh
still.
times and come over better on the other side.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with what he has to say. It's just like, you know, it gets better. Like, that's my biggest thing. Like, there's always that light at the end of the tunnel when it came to cancer and just to chemo or those hard days. It gets better. Yeah.
You gotta fight.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. Like honestly, just living one day at a time. Like each day, like is going to get better. Like if you're feeling super ill today, like tomorrow, there's a good chance you're gonna feel a lot better. If something is really hard right now, like in 2 months from now, it's gonna be a lot easier, kind of thing. So that's, yeah, kind of how I've been looking at it.
So I have this saying, it's you can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you react. So don't be a victim and adapt. And that's what I tell myself is, you can get sad, you can cry, that's totally valid, but there's gonna be a point where you have to pick yourself up and say, listen, this happened to me, I don't have any control over it. but I can control, I can react, and what I can do is just focus on getting through each day. And like everyone was saying, it does get better, but you can't have like a victim mentality of saying, why me? Because it already happened. And that's what's gonna help get you through what you're going through, is just persevering. You're allowed to cry, it's good to cry. And it's great to reach out to your friends and also have a therapist. I have a therapist that helps.
Gotta have a therapist.
Yeah, big ditto.
I haven't had one for years.
Everything shared so far. I would say it's like, I mean, it's a huge curveball. Obviously, it's not in anyone's life plan. And so, like, to honor those emotions that come up and allow yourself to feel whatever you feel, move through it. And then pay attention to where your mind goes. Because in those moments of deep suffering, I notice my mind very much leaves my real life. It goes into what happened before, what could happen, what happened to a friend, what happened to that person, that movie I watched, and I'll watch my projector of a mind go into things. So I like to bring myself back to reality, like your real life. We're sitting, I'm breathing, my heart's beating, and to really open your mind to the blessings and gifts that are happening in the moment. And that can be as simple as, I woke up this morning. Like, that's incredible. And so if you tune yourself, kind of train your mind to see those blessings, it can become a little bit easier. But honor it's also...
Ride the waves.
Yeah.
Ride the waves.
Ride the waves.
Yeah. I think that if someone's newly diagnosed, like, it's urgent and it's scary is how it feels. And I would say, take some space for yourself. Right? It's okay. Like, you've probably had cancer for longer than you think, and you can take a breath and you can check in with yourself, and you can, I think a lot of times we want to just keep everything looking normal, and it's like okay to just stop and step back and take space for yourself and figure out what you really need, and you don't have to keep on that mask of normalcy because something big has shifted, and it's important to give that space and kind of check out what's actually going on with you and your life. And take a breath and trust yourself, trust your intuition, trust your direction. Yeah.
Well, thank you all for being part of Middle Ground, sharing your stories. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was beautiful.
Don't clap for me, clap for you guys.
Clap for each other.
Group hug.
Let's do a photo. Come on.
Group hug.
Take somebody and throw them in the air. You can do that.
We'll do Michelle, she's time.
How beautiful is that, guys? Guys, I love Trixie coming on after. I don't want I love Trixie. We'll give Trixie a like on this video. I don't know what I'm feeling. That was really sad but also really beautiful. Even if I am very depressed that I was not involved with this, even though I don't know if I inspired, but I definitely asked the prompt like a few weeks before the prompt was picked. So that's a bummer, but I love you. I appreciate you. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Please make sure that you subscribe to your girl, and please follow me on Twitch if you want to talk with me. I stream every night and I would love to talk with you. And guys, like I said, life's a mess. I'm gonna go refilm the intro now, but I hope you enjoyed this. And Jubilee, I'm still waiting. Please have your beefy girl on. Some prompt, one prompt, any prompt, please. I've applied, I'm not kidding you guys, like 6 times. I've been interviewed, I think, like 4 or 5 times. And every time, it's a no. And the worst part is, I'm pretty sure the last time I got interviewed, they told me if I was in LA that I would be on. I would have been picked probably every time. But the annoying part is they told me that they had a budget for this episode. So I was like, oh, I'm definitely going to be on the cancer episode. And then I still wasn't picked. So I don't know, guys. I don't know what I'm feeling. But I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for watching. I'll have my entire cancer playlist linked down below. It is a wild journey. I've been recording my cancer journey, my journey with having cancer since my diagnosis at 18 years old. Please check it out. I'm going to be very soon going through and retelling my story because God, it was insane, and I also think it could help people by sharing it. I know it would help me, I think, going through and reflecting on it. I love you, and I will see you all very soon. Love you guys.
Thank you guys for watching the video. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and also leave a comment. I respond to pretty much every single one of you that leaves a comment. If you really did enjoy the video, please make sure to subscribe, and all my other links are listed down below. And follow me on Twitch for nightly live streams. Love you guys so much. Thank you.